All right, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can keep it at 30 minutes, and I'm sure there'll be people rolling in. So want to introduce our guest today, Julio Serrano, for our Wednesday webinar series. This is our third one, so we're really excited to have you, Julio. How you doing?
Doing well, man. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Appreciate it. So, and we also have Katie Malley from our office, who's going to be working the question answers and chat room. So if you have anything for Julio as we talk about his journey and the things he's getting involved in right now, feel free to put those questions in. So Julio, again, thanks for coming. We appreciate the time that you're spending with us, and just tell us a little bit about, how you got to Illinois, the journey. It's been a long one. I mean, we could probably spend 30 minutes on your journey, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about, what took place and where you're at now.
I was originally I'm actually son of a Mexican immigrant. So I was raised partly in Mexico and in Northern California, where my father worked for 40 years, and then obviously grew up playing soccer, coaching, and then moved to Kentucky when I got married. Moved to Kentucky, worked there for 9 years. Then went back to California for a family situation, and then 2 years ago was looking for opportunities outside of California. I have family here in Illinois, and an opportunity came up, and actually you were one of the first people that I spoke to from the state of Illinois through Adrian Parrish. As you find out, Adrian, yourself and everybody else have played a big part in this journey, and I'm really grateful for those individuals. But that's kind of how I'm here. I'm here in Illinois now, and I'm still not used to the winter by any means of the stretch of the imagination. I don't think that we as Mexican Americans are prepared for this weather, to be honest with you. But we're giving it a go, and it's been a great experience so far, Adam.
Yeah, that's great. I'm from England too, so it took me a long while to get used to this, but to be fair, the last 3 years have actually been pretty good. So not too bad in terms of winter. So we've been pretty lucky. So, but no, I mean, so in terms of the journey, in terms of your experiences, obviously from a coaching education we'll get into, but what was probably some of the biggest impact you had, California to Kentucky to Illinois? What were some of the biggest things that you had in terms of impact from a coaching education standpoint in those three different places?
The way I got into coaching education was actually because of my wife. And I'm really grateful for her, because when we first moved to Kentucky back in 2000, there was a free old grassroots module. I don't know if you remember those. I may be showing my age here, but maybe people out there still remember the old grassroots module. There was a free one in our neighborhood where we lived. There was a free one. They were offering a free one. And, me being, at that time in my career, the young Latino coach that wasn't going to be taught anything, I was very reluctant. I was like, no, what am I going to learn? It's a grassroots module. It's for U6s, but my wife insisted. And it was actually one of the better decisions I made in my coaching career, was attending that that old youth module that was actually taught by a friend and colleague, Steve Fugman. And I guess the rest is history, man. I saw the importance of learning more. I saw the importance of networking. Sometimes I think as Latino coaches, maybe we struggle with the networking piece, and maybe are afraid to put ourselves out there a little bit. But that's one of the biggest things that, to me, it helped change me. And then also another thing, Adam, when I was in California, just starting to coach, and getting through it was difficult to get a hold of leaders. It was difficult to get a hold of DOCs and technical directors of the state, and even the federation at that point. It was difficult. It felt like, they didn't want more people to join, or they didn't feel like, I remember calling, and email was fairly new, relatively new, again, showing my age. But, relatively new, but people wouldn't respond to correspondences, educator. And so it kind of a mixed bag. So I think going to Kentucky really helped me in seeing that value, and really helped me and impacted me and saying, hey man, this is the way to go. If you want to become better, you educate yourself, you surround yourself with like-minded people, and then definitely open your mind to learning more.
That's great. That's good. So you talked about the value. Obviously, you're really spearheading the Latino coaches. What would be one way of kind of helping push them into getting into more coaching education courses? Obviously, within US Soccer, we've now got the grassroots course that's in Spanish. So that's hopefully going to be rolled out as soon as we get back online, so to speak. But why can you do to help get them more involved?
I think, Adam, it plays a lot of part with trust and building bridges. I think for the most part, if people can't see themselves outside of themselves, then they feel invisible. Mm-hmm. So if they see people that have the similar story, if they see people that speak their language, if they see people that are willing to share the burden of assimilation, I'm quoting Dr. Fritz here from Butler University. He did a great presentation, by the way. But we need to share the responsibility of assimilating to this country and this culture. And I think if we do that, and we can go to them as organizations, I know you and I have talked about this. I've actually reached out to Zach Crawford too, and actually, as you know, and I also reached out to that's why I'm working with the United Soccer Coaches too, the association, because we have to go to them where the folks are, right, and share in that burden. Right. And sometimes for different reasons, coaches maybe can't attend courses. It's the hours, right? Maybe because most of our Latino community, hardworking community, mom and dad both work. Maybe mom and dad work 2 jobs, because they want to do better for themselves. And sometimes it's hard to squeeze in, a coaching education course because they're going to miss a day of pay. Right. So we really have to help them see the value. We really have to help and understand their situation a little bit. And again, just continuing to share the burden of assimilation. And I think, I'm excited about the new grassroots courses in Spanish. I'm excited to get out there and teach those. So hopefully, after we get through the situation that we're in, we're able to impact more coaches and go to their communities and go to their neighborhoods and show them that, hey, Julio went through this pathway. Other coaches, Rick Flores, that was a former technical director here in the state of Illinois. Rick Miena, Loy Urbina, right, from Massachusetts. These are all Latinos that went through the pathway and completed the pathway. And some people obviously not complete it because the pathway never ends, Adam, as you know. Our education never ends, so we want to keep that going. But I think that's what we can bring, is help share the burden and help them feel comfortable to put themselves out there. Because it's difficult. Maybe they struggle with the language. Right? Maybe they struggle with the language a little bit. We had an opportunity before this, the situation that we're in. We had an opportunity to go to Rockford and do a 7v7 course. And I was so proud of an individual that he signed up for the 7v7 course. He brought his son to help translate for him. And I applauded him, and I was so excited. But fortunately, Merrick was there. And guess what? We printed the material out in Spanish for him right then and there. Right. So we can provide. I think those are going to be keys to allow our communities to really assimilate and begin to join. Zach says this all the time. I don't know if you heard it. We are a part of US Soccer, and they are a part of US Soccer as well. They're coaching at the grassroots level. They are a huge part of US Soccer. And we want to make sure that they feel that and understand that,
No question. They're a huge part of our leagues that we compete in. They're every team has some type of Latino influence on it, whether it be on the field or on the coaching staff, whatever it may be. So it's massive. It's absolutely massive. So really applaud, you pushing that, because, we're here to help from an Illinois youth soccer standpoint. We want to support. So that's great. Yeah. So looking at that from your coaching standpoint, there was obviously people that you leaned on. You mentioned a couple of people already. Who were some of the mentors that even people now that you still kind of stay in touch with? I know we chat a lot, and Marek and other people as well. But, who are some of the people that probably had some big impacts on you?
Going back to my high school coach, Luis Montegui, he was our Spanish teacher back in high school. And and he was our soccer coach, and he understood. He shared in the assimilation because he was an immigrant too, right? So he shared in the assimilation process, and it really impacted me. How he really wanted better for all of his players, and that really impacted me and really kind of guided me. And then another mentor back then in California when I was going to high school was, he's since passed, but my history teacher, Tom Breggy. He always made history seem, he didn't get wrapped up in the content. He gave us the context, right? So then it'd be a little bit more impactful for us, right? Because I know you and Merrick and all of us say, don't be a slave to the slide deck, give it some context. Yeah. That's what he did, man. He made every day in history class, he made it an adventure like we were in a time capsule, and he gave us the context of what was going on. And to me, that impacted me greatly of how I am today with my courses and teaching and being part of coaching education. Obviously in Kentucky, Adrian Parrish, he's now with FC Cincinnati now. But he's a guy that, whenever he's in the area, he gives me a shout or I give him a shout and I go talk to him a little bit. He had a great influence on me. He was one of the first DOCs to kind of give me my coaching education break, and so to speak, and really believed in me and gave me some tips of how, not only how to be a better coach, but how to be a better person and how to be a better teacher of the game, right? Because coaches, there's plenty of us out there. We strive to be a teacher of the game, the best of our ability. We're not perfect by any means. God knows we've made more mistakes, Adam, than anyone. But you know what? Those are part of it, and it's okay. Right, and obviously yourself, and obviously Merrick, been great influences. I've got to this state, and been a great resource and always been available. And then as of recently, a couple of guys that I met, Patty and Mindy. Those are two guys that I don't think they know that they're my mentors, but they're just great they're just great human beings, Adam. And to me, that has a lot of value, and I think a lot of us coaches, we forget about that. We forget about the human aspect.
And I know you guys are talking. I think that little trip that you took to Memphis has led to your little WhatsApp group. So you guys are constantly chatting. So that's a good thing, right? So kind of staying on top of different things. Yeah.
For sure. And then checking in with each other, and then our ODP, coaching colleagues, like Matt, Matt Ballinger, another guy that would just check in on me out of the blue. And Adam, that goes a long way. Yourself and other guys. That's important, man. We forget about people too often. We do. As coaches, we forget. We get so wrapped up in the game and coaching and this, that, and the other. And where did I leave my ball bag? And where did I leave my clipboard? Right? That we forget about the kids and we forget about the people involved in the sport, which is, man, that's how we're going to make it the most preeminent sport in this country is really, really getting to the people,
Yeah. This is, a lot of, if we take a positive out of a negative situation, it's been a little bit of a reset for us in terms of connecting with people that maybe we didn't do before. I know I've done that myself, connecting with groups of people, reminiscing about the experiences we had, and then that also just brings up some great stories, and then that goes along with the education and the teaching aspect as well. So that's good.
For sure.
I think we've got a question for you here. Go ahead, Katie.
Sure.
Yes, we do. Can you speak on some of the differences in coaching education in the United States and Mexico?
Yeah, for sure. In Mexico, I was able to take my Mexican badge, and back in 2014, and just some of the difference here is it's more of a degree in Mexico. So I think there's a lot more preparation, more. They go into public speaking, they go into giving interviews, the psychology, just even morals and ethics, and just kind of more of a complete career. It's about 2 years, Katie. The Mexican badge program is about 2 years long, and obviously the U.S. program has changed since the old week and then you were done, and I think it's changed for the better. That was one of the things I think people had a problem with, where you just showed up a week and you were done. It's a long-term process, the learning process, right? So you have to reflect and this, that, and the other. But that's, I think, one of the biggest difference. And, it's funny, when I went down there, a couple of my counterparts were like, "Gringo, why are you here? You know, why are you here?" Because I want to learn the different perspective of how the Mexican Federation or how the Mexican League, how they view the game. And to me, it was one of the biggest eye-opening things. It was just a little bit different. You know, they weren't new to the guided question, so to speak, where we were a little bit more advanced in the guided question and the youth learning. But to me, just how they go from the movement and the kinesiology and stuff like that, they're really more into detail about that. They give, you know, kinesiology courses, movement courses during the coaching badge. So it's a little bit, it's a degree. It's a 2-year degree, you know.
Is it a series of badges, or, you know, similar to what we have A, B, and C and so on? Is it a progressive in terms of the courses that you take, or is it just one kind of general one?
And see, that's also changed as well. Before, it was one general one. It had 4 modules. You broke it down into 4 modules, and then you completed all 4 to get your diploma, right?
Okay.
Your título. But now they've changed it to the A, B, and C and D badge. And so certain age groups require a certain level of preparation, right? So they've kind of adopted the UEFA a little bit in that aspect, to where you have to have a certain level of education in soccer from the federation, that before you're allowed to coach, you know, in a U20 or U17, you know. So that's how they've broken them down to 4 modules now, and they're basically kind of they don't call them licenses. It's still a big diploma for the 4 years, but you can now take them 2 at a time. And once you've had 2, I believe, again, don't quote me on this, but I think after the first 2, it would be equivalent to a C, so to speak, here. Then that would allow you to coach like in U17, U15 type of format. You know,
makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of the 2, I mean, you've done both. What did you enjoy out of both of those? What was the most enjoyable? Obviously, within the US soccer, we talked a lot about, you know, obviously you're going away doing the B license, and I'm assuming you had to spend some time there within the residents, within the cohort, the group. What were kind of the 2 big takeaways from each one for you?
I think the 2 takeaways was more so, I think, in the Mexican side, was I was doing it with former players, like players that I watched growing up, or that I grew up with. I mean, because we're kind of the same age, right? So I got to experience that. And, you know, one of my partners was Eduardo Livingston. He was one of my classmates. He's a big time. He played for the national team, played for 6 or 7 teams in the Mexican First Division, and he for him to ask for my help, that to me was, wow, that was pretty impressive. You know, it's like he has all this wealth of knowledge at him, but he was learning. He was humble enough, the humbleness of the pro players to be like, hey man, could you help me with this? You know, and at that point, you know, obviously we've been coaching for, 15, almost 20 years at that point, you know. So that to me was exciting, just the humbleness of the players, the former players, and then the humbleness of all the different individuals that are at the courses. And now with the U.S., because I experienced the old U.S., I would say, the old U.S. education system, and now the new one. The old one, I think, was very rigid. This is how you do it. Go out and do it. And it was a lot more critical and a lot more deterring. I left a couple courses going, not because of the people, but it was just like, it felt like you were right. It was just right or wrong. It was it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to our new system, which is fantastic, by the way. And it was a great experience. I recommend everybody to start really pursuing those upper level courses. It's a process, and they make you feel like it's a process, right? So, and then obviously the week, and then the 3-month development period, and the week, and the 2-month development, whatever, the 90 days, whatever it is for each course. That to me was invaluable, because you get to practice what you learned and get to implement and try it out. Because before, we were given a week worth of stuff. All right, pass or fail, adios, thanks, and that was it. Right? In my opinion, that's my lens. I just want to be clear with that. I don't want people thinking that that's what everybody's experience was. But I think I've heard a lot of those older guys that we talk about it. It was kind of similar to that for some people. For some people, it was similar. But now I
Yeah.
think the new way is excellent, and I can't express the importance of the people like Antal and Neil Ellis and Dino and and just all the people at the national staff, how much of a role they've played, and Zach Crawford, how much a role they've played in our development. And they make us feel a part of the process, man. That to me is what really makes you, it gets you motivated, right?
Yeah.
You're bigger. You're part of something bigger, right? You're part of something bigger.
Yeah. And you was teaching those courses, the older version of the courses in Kentucky, and then now you went through the grassroots instructor license course, which is obviously a massive shift, which is, for me, alongside the national youth license, was probably the two best courses I've ever taken. Maybe talk a little bit about your experience there. I know we got a couple of questions waiting, but
Sure.
what was your experience in the grill itself?
Oh man, the grill is by far one of the best courses, period. Any federation, any module, anything. That was by far the most challenging, but I think it was by far the most rewarding. Ian Molnar, obviously another former Illinois youth soccer member, was my instructor, and Tim Bradbury, and then and Nathan Hunt. All these guys, man, with the wealth of knowledge. As soon as we got there, you could tell we were now instructors, because there's a difference, right? When you go from candidates to instructors, and there was a difference. When you go to upper level course, you're a candidate, but you immediately felt like, hey man, you guys are the key. We need you guys. You guys need to be the best that you possibly can, and you guys need to learn as much as you possibly can and continue to learn as much as you possibly can. I actually think that the grill should maybe even be adapted and given as a course, because I think it's so eye-opening for many reasons, and it made us really examine the methodology, the play practice play methodology, and why we use it and the benefits of it. And again, by the time we were done and fortunate enough to pass that, we were just like, wow, the implications of the play practice play are endless, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use that. I've had testimonials where people coach their college team that way. A funny story, when we were in Kansas City during those weeks, maybe I shouldn't say the name, but one of the Kansas City sporting Kansas City staff was kind of talking with amongst us, and some of the results they were finding when they were looking at some of the sessions, the years that they had focused more on 11v11 things in practice and training, they did the worst in the standings. The years they did the small-sided games, 4v4, 6v6, 7v7, they were higher up in the standings and maybe even won championships that year.
Interesting.
So even going back to that, older players just want to play too, Adam.
Yeah, sure.
They want to learn, but they want to play too.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I agree with you on the national youth course. I was fortunate enough to take that with Dr. Quinn and Vince Gansberg in Kentucky. That by far one of the best, another best course that now United Soccer coaches and Dr. Quinn have adopted and now taking it to United Soccer coaches. So now United Soccer coaches offers that as an opportunity with some of the original, instructors and creators. And, obviously Dr. Fleck, a great soccer person and knowledge that he helped create that. So that's, again, you're right. One of the best. Second, I think the grill is probably the first, and the national youth has to be second. I just think it's just because that's how important they were both to my coaching career.
Some good ones, yeah, for sure. Katie, I think we got some more questions for you here, Julio.
Yes, we do. What piece of advice would you give your younger self, considering what you've learned and experienced so far?
That's a good one. That's a good one, because reflection for me has been difficult. So definitely, being open to reflection, being open to constructive criticism, being open to change. Again, I was that crazy person, coach that we talk about, or that's a poster child, when I was younger, and obnoxious to a point. And just be open to learning from different people, because the machismo of me came out, and you know, who's going to tell me what to do and blah, blah, blah. And we were wrong. You know, I actually reflect to almost to a detriment, I think, because you think back at some of the teams that you had and some of the memories, and you're like, man, I screwed that up. Man, I screwed that player up. You know, and it's horrible to think that. But then you always want to try to look them up and hopefully that they're doing well. But that's what it's taught me, is to be open. You know, just be open to learning more, and keep your enthusiasm. Keep your enthusiasm. Keep your passion. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off.
Yeah, that's a really good question in terms of, you know, what you did when you was younger. I know for myself, it's like I used to talk so much, and with all the education we've done now, I talk a lot less. You know, I observe more, and then I'm a lot more profound in the things that I try to say. So
more impactful.
Yeah, all of those things. Yeah, exactly.
More impactful.
That's true.
Being more clear, right? Being more clear. And then, you know, obviously continue to volunteer. Make yourself available, because again, I got it from different sides. Oh, you're wasting your time. They're not even paying you. But man, keep volunteering, keep raising your hand, keep asking to help, keep making yourself available, because the things that you learn during that process, you're not getting paid in maybe monetarily, but man, you're getting paid in education. You're getting a free education, you know, helping people. You're getting a free education from these folks. And I remember Ian Collins, he used to be the head coach at University of Kentucky. I would help in his summer camps. And he told me one time, he said, Julio, it's what you do when the lights aren't on. That's what's going to get you to the next level. And another thing he said to me was do it for passion, not for money.
Yeah. That's true. He was one passionate guy. I coached against him a few times.
Yeah, Ian,
I know that.
Ian, whether he knew it or not, but he was another, you know, kind of mentor, you know, off the field and at camps, and you know, and he was very passionate, very, very passionate. He actually, I think, coined the phrase "kick anything that moves." He coined that phrase. You know, obviously we were talking and playing amongst ourselves as coaches, but it was a good experience.
That's good. I think we've got one more question, and then we'll chat to finish up about things that you're working on right now.
Sure.
Yep, one last one. In the U.S., we work hard to provide coaching education opportunities for women. How is that in Mexico?
It's changing. It's getting better. We aren't as good, I think, as the U.S., but you know, the U.S. still has a lot of work to do too, Katie. In our grill course, I believe there's only 3 females. So that's got to change. But yeah, Mexico, obviously, as you know, is a little bit. Again, I'm not going to badmouth anything, but they have a lot of room for growth in Mexico for the women's game. There's a lot of great coaches coming out of the women's game that just happen to be female, because I think the movement now in Mexico is because of their league is getting better. Their league is getting stronger. I think they don't want to really separate soccer. Soccer is soccer. You know what I'm saying? Soccer is soccer. So, and coaches are coaches. And I think they're starting to change that mentality a little bit in Mexico. Here in the U.S., obviously, we're light years ahead as far as development, as encouragement, and promotion because of Title IX. I think it's changed the game. You know, being a father of a young daughter, I want her to have all the opportunities that I had growing up. So I want to try to make sure that, you know, all young ladies, all young coaches get that opportunity. But Mexico has a little bit ways to go. But there's organizations popping up like AMFUT, which is the Association of Women in Soccer. That Dr. Vanessa Martinez, who's up in Canada coaching, she's a coach, another mentor of mine that I don't think she knows she's a mentor, but she's one of the first Latina coaches to have the UEFA Pro license. And she works for CONCACAF and works up in the university in Canada. And her story is crazy impressive as a coach. And I look up to her, and she really motivates me to continue to grow and go back to school and continue to learn, really.
Awesome. That's good. So as we kind of finish up here in terms of things, obviously you're busy with, obviously the UI soccer coaches, you've got some things going on with them. what's kind of some of the big projects you're working on right now within the Latino advocacy group as chairperson, as well as anything else outside? Obviously, you're going to be working with the club here fairly soon. You know, what's going on? What are you looking forward to, and what are you working on right now?
You know, I'm looking forward to continue our work. You know, I think the reason I started coaching was to use my knowledge and my skills to bring the game to more people. And I think, you know, that's happening at the United Soccer Coaches, Latino Coaches Group. We're excited about, you know, the podcast creation, the content creation, the webinars, you know, being on international webinars, just getting really into the nitty gritty of the details. So we're looking forward to that. That project's taking up right now quite a bit of our time. But it's something that I'm passionate about, obviously, football and coaching and the Latino community, right? So those are the things that I'm passionate about, and I really hope to make a difference and continue to inspire more Latino coaches. You know, bottom line, Latino coaches, we need to inspire them and share the assimilation, the burden of assimilating to our communities and to our culture. And you know what? I was fortunate enough to have people mentor me. You know, I had English mentors, I had Spanish mentors, I had some Latin American mentors. But you know what? The important thing is really help in sharing and assimilating and getting to know them a little bit, and getting to know them a little bit too. And I think that's kind of where I think we're going to bring the biggest benefit. And we're excited about that work. You know, right now the convention is tentatively on. So God willing, we'll see each other and we see each other all the time, but we'll see some of you guys out there in Anaheim. It's still going to go on. So we're looking forward to that, because we're going to have a Spanish track diploma. And it's going to be coaches that focus and deal with Latino communities, right? How to help them and engage the Latino community a little bit better and a little bit more thoroughly, so we can really inspire them to be part of our bigger community, you know, of soccer community. You know, and really help them see that way. And then obviously excited to be working for Lions, LTSC, for Gavin and John and Matt and other ODP colleague. So we're excited to get things off the ground there, you know, with our first season with them. And again, hoping to bring a little bit of our passion and our love for the game and culture for the game, right? Because those of us that grew up partly outside the country know there's a long way. I'll leave you guys with two stats. In Russia, 2018, the largest ticket sales occurred, one in Russia. And where do you think the second largest was, Adam?
I have no idea.
USA.
And we
didn't even qualify.
That's interesting.
So think about that. If we can focus all those people that are soccer mad, just like you and myself and Merrick and all of us. Think about if we can focus them, there's no question in my mind that we can make soccer the preeminent sport in this country.
No question.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's brilliant. That's really, really good. So, I mean, it looks like you're going to be busy. When we get back onto the field, you're going to be busy, and then you've got to kind of deal with all the stuff you've got going on right now. So that's going to be great.
But you know what? Our friends in California say we're on COVID time right now, so this doesn't really matter. It doesn't really. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't count. You know what I'm saying? We're on COVID time. It doesn't count. So obviously, when we get back to quasi-normal, whatever that may be, obviously we'll have to schedule and do better. But right now, we had to focus on something positive, and right now the growing of the Latino community in the coaches group was the most positive thing that I could think of right now and available. You know, because we can do a lot of Zoom stuff. You know.
Sure. And I know we're working on something too to try to bring something to the grassroots coaches within Illinois.
For sure.
So we're going to try and see what we can do in terms of giving some information. So there'll be a Zoom webinar coming up pretty soon, working on the Learning Center, trying to help them out a little bit. So Julio, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Katie, thanks again for manning the questions, and thanks for all the people in attendance. This will be posted on YouTube here later tonight. So send it out to all your friends, family, and everything else. But again, thanks for being part of this, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.